favor? It was properly posted in the courthouse.
Yes.
She sent it out to everyone. All right, we have a 5-point agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Frank, second by McKee. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right. That brings us to item 4, discussion of possible changes to ordinance 89-7. All right, so so I went through and highlighted a couple of things because we've already talked about them, but I think we need to just hammer down. So I hate to do it, but I think we need to go back to the very beginning one more time. Because so number 3, right in, well, I guess I'm skipping to B. I don't think there's any changes that we needed to re-talk about in A, but in B of that first section, item 3, it says, and to audit bills of the department. So I believe all other departments are having their bills audited by the county administrator and Derek. Is that who's doing that?
So, yeah, and I guess my question on that would be,
I mean, I kind of like it. As a committee member, I like being
it.
able to see it. I like being able to talk about it. I like knowing when we're going over and under and things like that. But is it micromanaging? I don't know.
and so my thought, I made a note on that as well, was that, I guess my understanding is that as an elected official, I still answer to my committee more so than
The county board
the county administrator.
or the county administrator.
Yes.
Oh, right.
So-
Right. Okay. And actually, we have several. We also have the clerk of court. We have the DA, all these elected officials. Oh,
Yeah.
did you want to talk to me?
It's up to you. Do you want me to?
Go ahead. Yeah. See what you need.
I texted him and asked if he was coming.
Okay.
Hello? Oh, you're out on a fire? Okay, all right. Okay, we do have quorum, so. Yep, all right.
He's on fire.
He's
Okay,
gonna,
there's a fire.
he's trying, he'll come, but he's at a fire right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so you are, yeah, and you're not the only elected official under this committee as well.
Correct, yeah.
So,
So.
I mean, this only pertains to the sheriff's department.
Madam
yeah.
Chair,
Yes, Supervisor Turk.
I can certainly understand the desire for the budget updates and to see how spending is going. But you know, if we still want to do that, we could remove the word audit. And if the county administrator or the treasurer, whoever we have, if we have a financial staff person who's doing that auditing, you know, the committee could still see the bills and know how we're spending and know how we're tracking.
Do we know what's happened with, because it used to be an audit committee. Used to be on it.
I used
right?
to be on it.
But I don't think there is an audit committee now, so I don't actually know. I just think that it's the county administrator and the clerk that are audited.
Maybe that's something we should clarify with the administrator.
Yeah, I could certainly ask that question.
And does that, I guess, does that come into question? Because you guys can authorize up to 5,000 for me to spend.
The committee structure, or I mean, the board rules
Yeah.
document.
And then if it goes to 10, Candace can approve it, or above 10, the board, we need a board approval.
Yeah.
So I guess that maybe that doesn't really fall under the audit wording. but-
Right.
No, because I think what they mean by audit is that we're looking to make sure that they're legitimate
for-
purchases regardless of how much they are, right?
So is it a review of? I mean, I think we should be.
I could change audit to review.
I don't know that we can really say, Sheriff, we are approving this after they've already been paid.
I mean, that's
No,
what
I
I've
mean,
always
that's
thought was
foolishness.
silly anyway. I mean, part of an audit though is not to approve the paying of the bill, but to just as a check and balance,
Yes.
to make sure it's a legitimate purchase.
And that we review that and.
Right. Which auditing is reviewed usually. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's a piece of it. I would say it is a piece of it.
Is there, am I wrong?
I always envision auditing coming with some kind of report.
Well, they do give us it's a summary report of their,
But
well, it's all their.
The auditor generates a report.
Right, so we would have to generate a report to call it an audit.
Which for us, we just have a motion saying that we approve each month is essentially our.
So review, I think, is more appropriate.
I think-
So leave the wording in there and just call it a review of bills.
Where are you with that? Across the top.
Yeah, so this is number 3 on the very first page. Under B. Yeah, it's number 3, and because the second
Got it.
is part of that paragraph, so I'm gonna undelete that. Checked. Okay. And change audit to review and to.
Right.
Okay, so that was my first one. Okay, so this committee has never received applications for vacancies to conduct or arrange to conduct examinations of potential candidates. Right? You guys get the applications, we don't. This committee doesn't have anything to do with the application process.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I thought we should delete that unless there's some reason why. I just didn't think there was a reason for that to be in there.
Nope.
Okay, so I can,
That is, in fact, directly contrary to.
other things,
what we're trying
right?
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any objections to deleting it? Okay.
No objection.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, if you don't have your camera on, if you can just confirm, so that I know I
Yep.
still got 4 people.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so then 4 is redundant because well, no, that's not, because we're reviewing the bills and then we're reviewing the budget, which we'll continue to do anyway.
Yeah, it's just different.
Okay, so then acts as a grievance committee. So we have not been the grievance committee. I believe the last few have gone to finance.
I know, complaint, I was talking about that this morning, and I'm not sure if they came up with a.
Is it in the contract?
It's,
There's more than one grievance process in the contract.
The union contract? Okay.
does the, and now I'm questioning myself, does it spell out finance in the, we negotiate with
I
finance?
think it got changed in the most recent negotiation based on all the stuff that we've done. I have always taken it to finance and personnel.
So shouldn't I,
Not that this comes up very often.
right,
That's the contract, but, just so we have it. as-
it just should be consistent, so I should delete it. This committee does not act as the grievance committee, and we would just not refer to it.
I mean, I could see certain instances where that could be a benefit, and that's what Aaron and I were discussing this morning, as you, for you guys as the grievance committee, you're most in tune in what's going on with
We do have the best
department.
understanding of the department and how it works.
So I see that could be beneficial, and that's what we were discussing this morning, is maybe the public safety committee should be the grievance committee.
And not finance?
So would that be the grievance for the union and the non-union, or all employees? Because the union grievance process is going to be different than what.
Yeah,
So sheriff's deputies have statutory protections that mandate their ability to appeal certain adverse employment actions. So it would cover anyone who is deputized, who is considered to be a sheriff's deputy, regardless of their union status. I think that would.
No, I don't think so. I think the status is, because you can have your jailer dispatchers deputized, but they're still not covered by the union contract.
By the union contract.
Right.
This is state statute.
Oh, I see, okay.
There's
so I think the argument that was made was, but you made them deputy sheriff, so it's inferred that they're law enforcement officers. You gave them arrest powers by making them deputies, so it's inferred.
Oh, so then we follow the statutes on that,
For law, yeah.
which for law enforcement, because it's separate, but then those that are in the union would have different criteria that would have. I see what you're saying.
So there are 2 grievance tracks that are not mutually exclusive. One of them is only available to union members, and there's the impartial grievance committee that's inherent to that contract. But the state statutory protections, we just need to designate a committee. I certainly see the argument for having this committee.
It does say finance.
Okay.
So what about our personnel policies for the rest of the county as far as grievance procedures? Like, is it weird that we're doing it in this committee, whereas the rest of the departments, the grievance goes through finance?
As long as people understood that there is a reason why it has to be like this, and if we're going to, if the state legislature has deemed it important enough that deputies get their own statute of protection, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to say, well, then we want to exempt our normal grievance process because we're evaluating the specific situations that come with being, dealing with law
But
enforcement.
now that the contract, the most recent union contract does say finance, we would be contradicting the contract to say this. So
No, the union people would still go to finance, anybody else
anybody else,
would come to.
I mean, it does
here,
say
so that
any-
changed.
an employee of the department. So this actually is talking about all employees, not just the
Yeah.
union.
So,
Are-
so one thing we did differently this last time is I currently have 2 sworn deputies working in the jail. They were certified law enforcement officers. I opted.
Devin is
the
one?
rest. No,
Should agree with that.
it would be 3 with Devin. Yeah, but I have 2 jailers that has status of a jailer who are currently certified law enforcement officers. I have sworn them as deputies. The rest of them who are not law enforcement certified are not sworn deputies.
So what, committee, what do we think? Do we want to keep it with this body? Does it, I mean, it does make a certain amount of sense, but I know that Candace is trying to make more uniform policies, that we don't have all these little,
Right.
but in this department we do this, but in this department we do this. So
And I appreciate uniformity, but I also know that uniformity can be the problem also. And in this case, I like the idea, if there's a grievance that comes up, it's gonna come to this committee who has that understanding. I guess if we have questions or problems, then what are we gonna do with it? We're gonna send it up to finance.
finance anyway.
And there's no reason we couldn't insert another appellate level. So, in
Starts
circuit
here.
court, appellate court, Supreme Court, we
Right.
have Public Safety Committee, Finance and Personnel, full county board.
Okay. So I'm gonna leave it here. Is that what I'm hearing? Keep it here? I mean, we can think about this a little more, because we're obviously, I'm gonna kind of put all of our changes together and then, then we'll talk about it when it's in its kind of somewhat more fuller form.
Would it be worth considering a joint meeting with the Finance and Personnel Committee to discuss this issue, or just get onto their?
Well,
agenda?
I would like to know Candace's, I can ask, for sure want to ask Candace, like how important is it to her? Like how badly does she want everything to be in
Well, see-
one policy document?
And the thing is that I guess the way I look at it, and you can weigh in on this, is that because there's a statutory process for how it has to happen with, with public employees also, right? But law enforcement,
Definitely law enforcement.
definitely law enforcement, yeah.
Okay, so for now we keep it here.
And again, you're saying definitely law enforcement, but you're saying some of the jailers are not deputized.
Some of them are not deputized.
Therefore, they don't fall under that.
So they would
Right.
fall under this,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to.
yeah.
Okay,
And that is, it's kind of messy, but it works, I guess I would say, is why, we have the handbook, but then we have the addendum to the handbook. Because there's certain things that need to be done a little bit differently here.
I know, which I know she, at least what my impression is, she doesn't like that we have all these
Well,
little things out there.
Again, generally speaking, HHS and Pine Valley shouldn't have their own employee handbooks.
They should be the same.
Sheriff's Office very much needs to have their own set of policies, because we don't
Very
have to
different.
govern their use of firearms or their use of emergency vehicle lights. Like, it's just,
Okay,
not just legally, but reasonably, logically, they are an entity unto themselves. And I'm,
24/7.
right,
Yeah, just all the things that go on.
very different. I mean, I would make that argument, but I know that I keep hearing over and over that we're trying to make more uniform.
Foolish consistency is the humdrum of little minds, I think was the phrase I heard.
I was just gonna say, this could be the exception that proves the rule.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that in there, and we can, hopefully, if anyone else needs to have input on that particular item, we'll have other opportunities. Okay, so then everything in D, I think we've hammered that out pretty well. Did you have anything in there? And the deletion of the 25,000 for the contingency is all good. Okay, so under item 2, I reread this and I do not understand why that whole paragraph makes no sense, because that entire paragraph is referring just to casual and temporary employees. Like, it's repeating, it's just strange to me. So I thought, why don't we just delete that language and say that the hiring procedures and standards will apply to casual and temporary employees? The only issue with that is that we have been a little more flexible with you about casual, where we have not done interviews, we have not done, so we could just add one short paragraph that just says casual and temporaries. And I thought I wrote it. Let me just see if I didn't. So we could just say that, again, well, what do we want to allow him to do with casual and temporary employees? So in the past, at least the last few years, all the casuals that I know of that you haven't hired have been people who used to work here, who you've brought back as a casual. Is that?
Prior to probably the last 2 years, yes. Because we have had a number where we've brought in people that have not worked here ever and brought them in as a casual, and those almost all of those people at some point have become a full-time employee.
Right.
So,
And we did not interview them though, or
no,
you didn't even post it as an opening? It was more like you heard
The
about
ones-
them and offered it, or?
all the ones that have been hired full-time have went through an interview.
Of course, right. But I'm talking
Yeah.
about the casual part of it.
But when they first started as casuals, I kind of brought the name before the committee in a meeting and said, hey, I'm looking at hiring so-and-so for this position.
Right.
And you guys have a,
And I thought that has worked pretty well.
Yeah.
I felt like we were informed, but we didn't slow down the process. We didn't hamper it. We didn't make it
Yeah.
into some,
Is there a limit on the number of casuals and temporary employees that can be employed by the sheriff's department at this point?
no.
I believe it was, I think wasn't there a number in I'm trying to think of what the name of the document is.
On the Excel spreadsheet, that's the number of positions within
Yeah.
the Richland County. Oh, I haven't looked at that in a while.
I think it was.
Not according to this ordinance, number 11
Right.
does
That's
not
correct.
say, how many. Right. So are we concerned that he would hire so many that it would blow his budget? Like,
No, I'm
concerned about,
I guess in my opinion, I don't think that the casual and the temporary employees, that if the sheriff needs casual and temporary employees for an incident or something going on, he should be able to go out and say, I know you're certified, I know this, I need you to go do this, because we have a situation going on that's taken care of.
when you use them to fill in when people are out sick or out injured, right?
Yes.
We use
So-
a lot of things.
Do we have a maximum number of hours they're allowed to work defined anywhere?
It's, it would be, it's controlled by budget, which we're
Well-
kind of working,
Can't work over 38 hours though, otherwise you have to get.
Benefit.
Right, look at
Yeah.
benefits would be considered more than casual or temporary if they're over 30.
I think it's 38, I thought it's 38, but maybe.
36 sounds right.
I think it's 36 a week,
Yeah,
Okay,
right?
so we,
so you don't allow that to happen ever? Or they get
We
that
don't,
anyways?
we've never had anyone that's worked over 36 hours. For a pay
Mhm.
period.
Wait, a pay period or?
Well, for a week, I guess, for it's 80 hours for a pay period, so yeah, for a week.
lost where I was going there.
Sorry.
No,
I guess I personally don't see why this is even here. I think it-
the staff authorization table, I think, has 8 jailers and 8 patrol deputies.
Okay.
I believe.
So when you're budgeting, you budget for approximately 8 at maybe 20 hours or
So-
something. or-
That was one of those ones where we've been kind of making adjustments to it because we never delineated like court security versus patrol versus jail. So that was one of those ones where we were making adjustments and trying to, especially in this last budget cycle, I would say that we were trying to separate out the tasks and make sure that we're budgeting.
Within the budget.
appropriately.
Right,
Yeah.
within the line item.
Yeah,
Right.
so I think that's kind of a fluid number that's probably gonna change here. As we haven't had casual patrol people in quite a long time. And so we're working on,
Right. So really what would be accurate though to say is that not the hiring procedure, but the hiring standard will apply to casual and temporary. So
Yes.
they still have to be in certified law enforcement or whatever criteria you have for whichever position. Like you still have to meet all that criteria. So maybe what I say is these hiring standards will also apply and take out procedures and then I'll do a short bullet where we can define exactly what you just described to us.
So I see Bob over there and I'm thinking of something too.
I know, I am too. You go ahead first.
So my only concern with that is that let's say, because I've done this, I hire a person casual to work here and I sponsor them to go through the academy. They're,
Not certified.
I'm not paying them to go to the academy. I'm sponsoring them.
Pay the bill?
I don't pay the bill.
Oh, you just put your name on like saying I'm,
They're an
Right.
employee.
because they have to be sponsored in order
Yep.
to go to the.
And then they don't have to pay unless they fail. That's the agreement.
So why,
That's the agreement I make with these people is that I'm sponsoring you to go to the academy. We are not paying your wages. We are not paying for your academy.
you just signed in the piece of paper
I'm
saying,
saying they're an employee here and I want them certified.
And if something came up, would you use them for
Yes.
transcription? Would you use them for checking evidence in or something that's not law enforcement certification required?
so how does that affect any of what I just proposed?
Because you just
Just-
propose that the criteria is they have to be law enforcement certified. They have to follow that statute.
No, I just said that the hiring standards will apply.
Oh, okay.
Which
the-
we have
which the-
standards in here for both certified and non-certified.
I see what
For
you're saying.
deputy and for
Right.
other employees,
Okay,
So I think that, yeah, that would work.
that would work.
Yep.
I think, anyway.
Yeah.
No,
I'll go back through and
thank you for the conversation. I think
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
yeah, so I'm not saying, because, yeah, I think that we would be okay just removing that. Okay, and then B says that the Public Safety Committee shall publicize, which we don't publicize, the creation of an eligibility list. Do we even do this eligibility list?
We
stuff
do
anymore?
publicize the creation. We put in the paper that an eligibility list is
But we
being
don't do
started.
that, they do that.
We do that.
We get that approval to do it though, don't we?
Yeah. So, and again,
Yeah.
this is a kind of, we've been doing it differently than the way it's been done in the past.
So we've been struggling to find out.
So
It's so
what,
different.
what it was early last year, I asked permission, basically like blanket permission to advertise when I need to. Instead of coming to you each time I need to advertise and waiting for the next meeting, I just said, hey, can I just keep it running? We're accepting applications pretty much at all times right now, and I'll just advertise when we need to. Was kind of the way we handled it last year. That way I didn't have to, if I need somebody now, I don't have to wait to start advertising until the next meeting.
Which could be a month.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
So you're keeping a current eligibility list active?
That's kind of in this climate right now, that's not,
Right.
it's not, there's no eligibility list. Because
But it's
even
a
if
piece of
you,
paper with
even if
one
we had,
person's name on it.
even if we had 5 candidates, if you're not offering a position and snapping them up immediately, they're gone.
Right. I mean, we have had instances where we've gone back to the list, but that was even like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And since COVID, that's just not even been an option.
So I think the wording should remain. Because
Okay.
Because I hope 5 years from now, we have candidates beating down our door. But
Okay, so I should just leave it.
I think it should be allowed.
But to do that, I don't have any trouble leaving it, but to do that and then to follow this, that means that probably once a year, January of every year or something, we should be putting out, Richland County is creating a
An eligibility list.
eligibility list for the year 2024.
So when I
It says what we should be doing it if it's there.
So when I advertise, if we have a vacancy, I put in that we are filling vacancies. But I every time I put establish eligibility list right below fill vacancy.
Okay.
It's a hope that you have enough candidates to make an eligibility list.
Right.
Is an eligibility list just like a contingent candidate pool?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have these charts that you rolling.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Where there were 60, 70 people in a list. And when you had an opening, you just kept going down the list.
Okay, that makes more sense now, because it's
Yeah.
part of our affirmative action resolution. We want to make sure the people who have applied are publicized that.
Yeah. And that's the way I post, when I post on WileyNet too. It's, I check the box to fill a vacancy and I check the box to establish eligibility list.
So even Wyland understands the purpose of an eligibility list.
Yep.
You could rephrase it to the law enforcement committee shall cause to be publicized. That way you're not directly responsible.
Oh, yeah,
There you
that's
go.
what we're saying, yeah.
I feel like it can be read that way as is, but if you really want to make it clear,
I'd rather prefer.
Kind of gives it that we were just telling him to do
Right.
it, essentially.
Keep
Okay,
doing what you're doing.
And now it's legit.
okay, so I'm not changing anything else in that language, though. We're gonna,
Just cause to be publicized.
I mean, we could say something like annually, the committee shall cause to be publicized the creation of an eligibility list.
I don't think so, because if he, every time he needs the list, it needs to click in the box and put it
Okay.
in the paper. I think
I'm
we're
fine with that.
Is
Okay.
the reference to the affirmative action resolution still included in your latest draft?
No, I didn't.
I feel like we can take that out.
Oh, okay. So
When you
be,
guys posted, do you guys put something with affirmative action language in there? Don't you say you're an equal opportunity employer?
I'm trying to remember what the paper ads say, but it's also a checkbox in my Wiley ad is affirmative action and equal opportunity employer.
So should I get rid of that sentence?
I would, just because, especially because it's citing to an ordinance or a resolution from
1976.
Board knows what that says.
Okay, all right. And then I deleted C because in the first paragraph, we say all employees. This section shall govern the filling of all full-time and part-time non-management vacancies in the department, which cannot be filled by a job posting within the department.
Where are you looking? Sorry.
So I'm still on section 2. I deleted C because it was talking about the secretary position on its own, which is stupid because we've already said we're gonna,
Yeah.
these policies will apply. So,
Agreed.
all right. And then, we already went through all this. I don't have any changes on, which is what is now C, or it used to be D, minimum qualifications.
We struck one,
Yep,
altered.
altered 4, altered 5. Because you didn't like because you don't have a competitive exam by the administration, the DOA.
Correct, yep.
Struck all that, struck E completely. And then we got down to the exam language that we changed a couple meetings ago. And then, so 5, first oral interview. Panel will consist of the sheriff or designee, the chair of public safety committee or designee, and 3 to 6 other people appointed by the sheriff. I think that's the language we settled on. So it's 1 member from here, or a designee, so me or the designee, the sheriff, and then whoever else you want to have.
So that's the final.
That's well, I mean, that's the only time, it's the first oral interview for, you've never talked about the fact that they go before your deputies.
So
That's not even, that language isn't even in here originally.
That's an arc.
It is. It is in ordinance originally. Did we strike?
No, I
that?
didn't strike it. No, everything's still in here. I haven't,
You're thinking about contract. Union contract.
No, this was in here. The first
I mean-
oral interview. So step 6. Step 7, the 5 highest ranking applicants will go to the Public Safety Committee. So that's where I missed it. That's
no
where.
person shall be certified as one of the highest ranking applicants who has not taken the exam. Unless the committee has extended the interval. This is talking about the exam.
So where's the interview? So
The only interview is item 6 as far as, item 5, I'm sorry.
So there is,
I
I have to look at the original.
I haven't deleted, anything that I deleted should be read struck through. I didn't
Okay.
delete anything without being in.
So the
review mode.
first oral interview, in my recollection of 89-7, is the panel of people to include the chief deputy. Well, the way we've always done it is, well, not always, because I can remember when my first oral interview, I had a portion, if not most of these people originally listed. But the way we've done it more recently is it's been all designees, and usually if it's a jail position, it's been the lieutenant, jail sergeants, and
Right.
jail staff members.
So the original language was the first oral interview by the following law enforcement personnel, and then it was chief deputy, road patrol, dispatch, patrol sergeant, investigator, another department member or designee, supervising personnel from law enforcement agency, sheriff.
So then it should go from there.
I don't think there was a second one, but
It's supposed to be like your top 5 candidates go from the first interview to
To public safety.
public safety.
That's the way we've always done
And
it.
then we narrowed it down to 3 if there were.
I mean, I can open up an old version of it. Or I can just add it back in. It might be faster to just add something back in.
So yeah, the first interview, I don't think was with, I don't think it should be with the public safety member. It should just be of our,
And kind of what I was envisioning with is in the second interview where we narrow it down to like a top 3 candidates, it would be, the chair of public safety or their designee.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the one you sent me, with your edits back.
Okay.
And it's the same as what we're looking at now.
I need to go get my mouse because I can't control
Um,
PDF.
So why don't I just, I'll just quick add it. I mean, let's just add it. If that's the way we want to do it, let's just add it instead of wasting time, right? So step 5 would be the first oral interview, which would be, panel will consist of the sheriff.
or designated. Get rid of the chair.
Yep.
Public safety,
So we don't have to copy this first.
or designate, and 3 or 6 people appointed by the sheriff. So I think you just get rid of the chair of public safety committee or designee, and just keep the 3 or 6 people appointed by the sheriff.
Okay, so then step 6. No, step 6 would still be the 3 highest ranking applicants or 5. I mean, we haven't had 5, so whatever. I mean, we've been doing, so I should leave it at 5 for this step, and then this is the step where they then go to,
Yes, yeah,
then they go to, so step 7,
it'll be number 6 now.
Oh, so step 8 is what I'm referring to.
okay, so. Okay, so really all I gotta do is just delete the chair part. So it's, the panel will consist of sheriff or designee and 3 to 6 other people appointed by the sheriff, and you don't want this list of
Doesn't need to be
potential.
spelled out, yeah.
Okay, and then the next one, it would be the 5, if wishful thinking, so should I leave it at 5?
I think you probably want to leave it at 5 still.
Okay, just in case that ever happens. So the 5 highest ranking applicants to fill the categories shall undergo a background check, reference check, neighborhood inquiries, prior employment check, character reference, other checks. And then no person shall be certified as one of the 5 highest ranking applicants who has not taken the exam within 12 months. Unless we have extended it, but is this language still relevant?
I don't
Leave
think
it in
we
there?
extended it, but I think it's good to keep it in there in case we,
Want it?
Because now if they take the test somewhere else
yeah.
and can prove it, they're.
So step 8 was what?
Yep, okay, so I'm gonna undelete that, unstrike that through. And we want it to say, and I'll change it to. And the law enforcement, I think it's supposed to say committee, so I'll change it to public safety committee. Gosh, can't type. Determines it's a bit that's giving us,
So I guess my points for discussion would be, do we want to keep this as a step in the process? Or do we want to,
Just put the committee with the first portion I have. Is that what you're trying to say?
well, or I guess I think it's important to have that second interview.
I do too,
I agree.
and I do think it's important to have someone from this committee present.
So do we just
So,
set it up where we have let's say the committee chair
Or designee.
or designee from within
Right.
the committee?
so instead of all this, well, I suppose we want to keep this language about giving us the option to not fill the position if we were, be nasty.
Yeah.
There could be a reason.
Right, so we would just say that the 5 applicants will be interviewed by, and I'll just say by the same language we had up here, which was by a panel, which will consist of 1 member, the chair or designee, the sheriff or designee, and the chief deputy. Or just say,
I guess I would include whoever the lieutenant is for that division too. So if it's a jail position, we have the committee member, the sheriff, the chief deputy, and the jail administrator or the jail lieutenant, however you want to say it. And then if it's a patrol position, the final interview would be the committee member, the sheriff, the chief deputy, and patrol lieutenant.
What about administrator designee?
Yeah, it's,
Oh, you want someone from,
Same language of 3 or 6 people appointed by the sheriff. So once again, that could still just be the lieutenant for the road.
We just need to
Lieutenant for the sheriff, or for the.
I don't think you want to identify lieutenant for the road, lieutenant, because
I just think.
what if that title changes? We're going through and changing this document every time.
Yeah, I just think you do 3 or 6 people.
So I think the important
Or the
part is that we have the sheriff
or
and
designate
then chair member,
chair?
chair
designate.
or committee member.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then one
3 or
other at the
6 people
sheriff's.
appointed by the sheriff.
yep.
So the same language that you had up at the top.
Right,
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
very much. Yeah.
Do you think administrator or designee should be included in there in deference to Candace's pursuit of uniformity? They are still going to be a county employee. It would be helpful to have.
Talking about including like actual the administrator, not the jail or dispatch administrator, but the county.
The county.
Oh, you're talking the county, okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's where-
I was confused with that too, okay, got it. Adding the county administrator to that, or designate.
Yeah, I think that's a good
That's
idea.
fair.
County administrator.
Or designate.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the jail.
No.
That's what I was thinking too.
I know there's so many administrators. All information from steps 1 through 6 will be available for review of the interview. We're ranked 1 through 5 for the position, which is vacant. Okay, so we're all good there? I think we got that now? Abby? I guess I didn't even see 8 since it was all struck through. Totally didn't read it. All right, so I think I don't have anything in F. We've already made changes there. G,
So in F,
yeah,
halfway, about halfway down it says, the department with give the opportunity.
oh yeah,
We'll-
there's a lot of typos like that. I'm
Okay,
gonna read, yep.
Right.
I'll fix a lot of those. I've been catching them as I go. But, yeah, the grammar in here could use a little work sometimes. So G, part-time casual, I didn't have anything. One thing, so I was trying to change sheriff's department to sheriff's office. The language gets a little bit weird when you're using department in a sentence by itself, because office doesn't always make
Sense.
sense.
I've struggled with that same thing.
So I don't know what you want me to do about that.
I think in my,
I can talk to you separately about like there's a
Yeah.
couple times where it's a little awkward.
Do you start the document with their change?
Well, I tried to do SO,
so I,
then SO was like, well, I don't want it to say so
Yeah.
throughout the document.
So,
Or CSO.
does it?
Well, I could do that. I could do RCSO. That makes, because so was just like, I can't put that,
Yeah.
it makes it C.
And was there a paragraph in the beginning, if I'm recalling, that says to be referred to as?
It is, it defines it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'll put RCSO. That will help considerably. And then I can change everything to RCSO and I think it'll make sense.
Yeah.
It's just using office without sheriff's office sometimes just makes the sentence really weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so, hold on, I gotta get back to where we were.
we're at G, now we're going to 8.
Part-time casual, yep, so we're at H, full or part-time jail dispatcher. I didn't change anything there except the public safety committee. I didn't change anything.
So my question there is, the sheriff's department, for more than 35 days, but less than 180 days. What's the 180 days?
That's the requirement from their offices.
No, it's 75, right, from
I think so, for
WRS.
WRS.
Yeah, they can't return within 75 days.
Right, so that's why I was.
So what, should we change the 180 to 75? It says 180.
So are we giving I guess, I have to reread it. Are we giving ourselves a window on which to bring them back without?
Yeah,
a
persons,
hullabaloo?
person have been full-time employed in the sheriff's department for 20 years or more. They can be rehired without going through the whole process. So not apply to such persons, provided that person has been retired from the sheriff's department for more than 35 days. So I guess they could come back full-time at any point. I mean, you could retire and come back, but less than 180. I'm not sure what those numbers.
I think we should probably, if we change one of them, we should probably change the low end, because if they come back at 35 days, they put themselves in a bind, WRS.
Yeah, they won't get the retirement status if they're part-time or, right, unless they're coming back full-time, but I think it's, in this case, this is casual or temporary, right, so it's gotta meet the WRS of 75 then.
So it should be for more than 75 days, but less than 180?
Yeah, what's the less than 180? Why are you cutting it at half a year? What if a year later, they're still certified?
Maybe a year.
Yeah, they're still certified for 2
But
years.
less than 365 days?
3 years.
Oh,
Three, right, three.
Yeah.
less than 3, should I just say 3 years?
They can even do the waiver too after the 3 years. They submit to the state could,
They can request a waiver.
I mean, what does this mean? So does this mean that if it was more than 180 days, they would have to
Go through a hire.
go through a hiring?
But for a
process?
casual, what is our hiring process?
Exactly. So here now we're,
So does it even matter?
I don't think it does. I think the important part is that we don't bring them back before they get.
To screw up their WRS stuff.
Yeah.
but that's up to them. Maybe they don't want the WRS thing. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, actually, I know why you wouldn't, because you're gonna bank that back into WRS and build that up before you pull it again. But anyway, that's
We're leaving it or what?
another story. Sorry.
Um,
Is it necessary? Let's start out. Is this necessary, Sheriff, for your decision-making to hire a casual or part-time?
option I had the whole time, I was thinking about it.
Mike, is there any reason you can think
I
of?
don't see a reason to have it.
Here?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna do
Strike.
it then.
Especially with as easy as we've made the.
Casual part.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, leave of absences. So this brings us to the reason why I think Mike is sitting here. But you're very handy to have around for other reasons.
Maybe.
So item C, I don't wanna, I think we'll just let you, that's what we were supposed to say here. And if we do need to say this in here, or if there's other policies, that are overarching policies within the county that covers.
Yes.
I think we actually have a policy for our department that talks about that.
Yeah, we've discussed this before, because we had that guy complaining about
Yeah.
electioneering.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the conversation we had last time, yeah.
So is it paragraph H?
So it is 3C.
So I have that as in order to guarantee the smooth and efficient functioning of the department.
No.
Okay,
No,
that's why I
Oh.
asked, because
Leaves of absence, section 3 is leaves of absence for candidates of political office and conduct. That's the section we're under 3.
I think I have, but I have any employee of the department
Here.
may display political.
Yes.
Yes.
That's good.
that's the paragraph.
Yeah, so Candace reached out to me about this, and basically what you are doing is taking it upon yourselves to determine whether or not our employees are properly exercising their First Amendment rights, which is ambitious to say the least. So, the easiest revision would be to say that employees of the department may not engage in political activity while uniformed and on duty.
Except the sheriff, who has different rules.
Well,
I'm not an employee.
Oh, that's true.
I would just say while on duty, because uniforms, they may be
Oh, they-
not uniform.
Yeah, what happened is we have an undercover officer who's with like a terrorist organization and has to participate in some kind of political activity. So yes, on duty.
I'm an extremist.
Okay, wait a minute. So I'm gonna, hold on. So I'm deleting the current language and replacing it with what?
No
Or do
employee.
we need to have this in?
I don't know that we do, because we have those provisions in the employee
I
handbook.
mean, that's what I'm
There's
thinking is why is it
statute
in here? It's
like-
redundant.
If
I think you
people
can
don't,
leave A and B and strike C.
Any employer may seek any partisan or nonpartisan office which he or she is legally able to hold without being required to take a leave of absence from the department. May seek, but what if they get that office? Then they'd have to leave. But
Well, it depends what the
Office
office
of
is.
the office.
They could be on county board.
Yeah.
one of our council members is one of your deputies.
no employee of the department shall engage in any form of political activity calculated to favor or improve the chances of any political party or of any person seeking or attempting to seek political office except as provided in this subsection. Do I need to keep that?
That should be taken out, because that's setting the
So
stance of
proceed.
to denying it unless. It should be they're allowed except for.
So it seems to me that the whole section 3 can be deleted. Because all it talks about is the three things I just read.
Okay, so I have the older one, which
Do you
does,
want to see?
yeah,
So this is the entire
Okay.
section. It is-
yeah, that's way better than, but this stuff, I mean, I don't run the sheriff's department. You'd have to weigh in. Is it disruptive to have a candidate for the office still working within the department during the course of the campaign? Because
If
that's
they're
what,
running for sheriff, it can be.
Yeah. that's basically what this does. It specifies for people who are searching for the office of sheriff specifically. In order to avoid dissension within the department, any of the department who intends to seek the office of sheriff shall take a leave of absence. And then it's, the dates that they take a leave of absence. And
Is that in the ordinance you're reading?
that's from the ordinance I'm reading, which
So I
is
old. Think that was struck under,
It must have been struck previously.
yeah,
it's just not incorporated.
I think that was.
Yeah, so, I went through it and went through all of the amendments that have been made to it since 1989 and put the final document together.
Okay.
And it must have, if it's not in here now, then it was deleted by the committee.
I might have
So
the document before you incorporate it.
Yeah, because I sent you both. I sent you like all of it with like the original one, and then I sent you one with all of the list of all the changes that were made.
I might have a Word document that has where it's just each revision in the ordinance that enacted that revision. I think I have a Word document that
I mean, I do too. I could look, but,
I got the right one now.
so
Okay, so if that's taken out, then never mind.
Yeah.
So
do I need
yes,
A and B in there then? And leave A and B in there?
I would say leave A and B in there.
I think it's important to make the statement.
Yeah, and because I mean, and I wouldn't want an employee I guess I wouldn't want an employee on duty, I guess, engaging in political activity.
And if that's specifically what you're looking to exclude, perhaps replace that statement at the end of A that says, except as provided in this subsection with something about while on duty in uniform or something.
And our policy we do have a policy, I found in the policy that talks about speech expression, social networking while on duty, so we don't have a policy in place.
and generally speaking, you just can't do anything that negatively reflects on or inhibits the operation of the department.
Okay, so we have a policy on it. Does it need to be in this ordinance?
I don't think so. I think maybe we make that clear as part of training or something, but I don't think anyone who's gonna be engaging in this kind of activity is going to be digging.
This
This
ordinance. So you're gonna read our policies and procedures. Okay, so what I'm hearing is I delete 3. All of it.
Delete all of 3?
No? Or keep A and B? I don't care, so
Yeah.
just tell me what you want.
So my opinion here is you keep A and B, we change the
Okay.
wording to.
While on duty.
While on duty. And the only reason is I've seen too many tension places when sheriff races come along.
It does seem to be the
Employees that are there.
one department where an election can certainly have a
Right.
huge impact.
And I understand that it's expressed there and I'd rather have it expressed here and there. Let's make it very clear.
Okay.
This
Because
does have the force of law.
it's horrible.
An ordinance, yeah. Okay,
So I would leave, I agree, I would leave A and B.
so I
And
changed
then
A.
change it on to duty.
So I changed A and I deleted except as provided in the subsection with while on duty, kept B as is, and deleted C.
I like that.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
my opinion.
All right, so then,
Thank you.
now we get to where we left off last time, so we had a brief discussion about the under sheriff chief
Did
deputy.
you change the title of that section? Because now.
Leave of absence, oh, yeah, why, I don't, that, was that ever? It must have been deleted. But the title not changed, like it was
Yeah.
amended and then the title wasn't changed. So I just want to say candidates for political office, no, conduct of employees regard.
Yeah, you go.
Yep. Thank you for catching that. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if anyone had a chance to think about the pros and cons of, where we left it last time was that we were gonna just think about the pros and cons of, what are the pros and cons of, were we to have an undersheriff who is your statutory
Replace.
person that you designate, And then also have a chief deputy. That would be a position that is appointed by the county board for continuity and others. So I guess what I'd like to hear from you is probably, so from my perspective, the major pros would be continuity. If there's major upset as far as a new sheriff and a new chief deputy, you know, and it's someone who doesn't know our budgets, doesn't know how to run a sheriff's office, God forbid, they don't even have like any government experience. You know, I mean, you can see how that could be a big disaster from a financial perspective. And having a person who is just that, you know, that the sheriff can't get rid of, that would understand all of those things, has appeal from that perspective. I know you have concerns about.
So, yeah, and I do, like, so to, there's nothing you guys can do to prevent me from selecting an undersheriff.
No.
But an undersheriff has no authority unless I become incapacitated or dead. So.
Well, this ordinance gives them authority, but it's all based on what you give them,
Yeah.
right? Yep.
Yeah, so Aaron, when I selected Aaron as my chief deputy, or let's go back to post my election. Aaron is also my undersheriff. So I guess I look at it as I completely understand the continuity of operations point of view of it. I get that. But I also, I guess it's a broader discussion as to how you guys are seeing the position filled, selected, removed. But the way I look at it, if I'm looking at it as now the committee has a part in selecting the chief deputy and the removal of the chief deputy. And then where is that chief deputy loyal to? Is he loyal to the committee that helped choose him? Or is he loyal to the sheriff who he is to carry out the wishes of?
Hopefully he's loyal to the county,
So-
in the best interest of the county as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that would be the whole,
Well,
not necessarily to the county board or the sheriff, but to what's best for
Yeah.
the county as a whole.
So, and I've seen in other counties that are not too far away, where the chief deputy probably didn't have the best interest of the county as a whole in his
I'm sure it
mindset,
depends on the person, right?
and is still sitting in that position and cannot be removed by the sheriff.
The
So,
county board still supports that position.
that person,
Yeah.
Well, he's still trying to go through the whole process of removing the position, and what has he done or do?
Guessing we know what county that is. So have you ever talked to anyone who has a good, have a good sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what word I'm trying to think of, management? That have both, that works well and that, you know.
So I reached out to, the sheriffs. I haven't heard back from a lot of them yet. But it's of agencies that have like a true, where it's their undersheriff is their second in command. Where that is their actual title is undersheriff. There's only a handful in the state out of 72 counties where I was thinking 8, but we're not far off.
Yeah.
Yep. And that person is what we see as the chief deputy here, but as their title is undersheriff. And they're selected by the sheriff, they're removed by the sheriff. And then I think there's a number of counties that have where they call them a chief deputy, but they're essentially an undersheriff like Aaron is.
Well, you have to officially, it's sort of like you were the jail administrator, you're the sheriff, but we had designated you as the jail administrator because by statute you had to have one.
Yep.
So he's called the chief deputy, but
He's essentially.
by state law, he's really the undersheriff.
Yeah. But there are also counties where the chief deputy is a hired position by the county. And that person has to be removed by an action by the county.
Which is current status of lieutenant
Yep.
here and the jail administrator.
So, and Bob made a very good point, I think, in the last meeting when this was brought up, was that's where you get your continuity of operations. Now we have a jail administrator, essentially a lieutenant for the jail, and we have a patrol lieutenant who can maintain those day-to-day operations that way. While a new sheriff and a new chief deputy, start to implement their philosophy or their,
So how could we make sure that those positions, or maybe they already are, I don't see that in the necessarily the descriptions of their jobs, but how do we make sure that they have a good understanding of the financial aspect of the department? Maybe we need to just add that as a thing that if that's gonna be our way to have continuity, then we would want them to have a good understanding of how the financial aspect, like maybe they just get involved in the budget. The best way to do that is to get involved in the budget process.
it is. That is the best way. The other thing too is that we do have the board rules, which control our spending. So we can't just, a new sheriff can't come in and just say, I'm throwing away all these squad cars and we're buying all new.
Right.
There are financial safeguards, I guess I would say in that instance.
In essence, not taking any of the authority away from the sheriff, who watches over and maintains the budget in the sheriff's department? I'm saying Amber. You know what's going on, the bills come in, the numbers come in. So having the other lieutenant, having the jail inspector or the jail administrator, knowing what's going on is critically important. But our source for that information is Amber.
Amber is the in-touch person with our budget.
Right.
Sure.
She is
Yeah.
the one, the confidential secretary that is hired by this committee again.
Yep.
Make sure that those processes happen. I say where we are is fine because it's all gonna fall back on us if we hire someone crappy in that position.
Okay, so we're good?
And the other thing too is, to Bob's point, Amber is the most in touch. I'm probably the second most, I handle the budget probably the second most, just because Amber has all the bills, everything comes through Amber.
Right,
So-
but the sheriff before you, that was not necessarily true as far as hands-on budget.
Would agree.
That was still the same.
No, that
No,
was,
that-
it was hands off.
That I'm saying the last sheriff was not like.
Did not look at the
know
budget.
what's going on in the budget.
I think with our administration though too, I think we're all kind of, Clay knows the budget probably better than I do, but we're all look at the budget at the same time. And
Okay.
I know the plans are right to put Devin, I sat down with Devin, started going over the
The
budget,
jail
I think,
sheets.
the jail.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
our administration doesn't have any issue with it.
Well, see, and I don't think that, I don't think, you guys are a very unique situation where you guys are a really well-oiled machine. I just, having watched the previous 4 years before the last 2 years, it's night and day as far as the administration level of how things are run, so.
But it's being run now, the way it should be run. And if administration changes, if Clay decides to go to somewhere else and someone else comes in as sheriff, we don't want that to happen, I'm not saying that. But but because that political realm is there, I think we have the safeguards of a lieutenant.
You're lucky right now, we have a
Of
really
the-
good staff.
you
So you
Okay.
can't remove lieutenant?
Not
It's
without
that
cause.
position?
Yeah, not without cause.
I mean, you have to follow the same procedures for getting rid of any employee within,
Any law enforcement
any,
officer.
Right.
within
Yeah.
the county.
Chief deputy can go, you sneezed wrong at the end of the day.
But he would only be not the chief deputy, he would immediately go back to his former position.
Correct.
Just because they are.
Not fired from that position.
I can't-
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we're good with the way it is and but my question was do we need to, in this, acknowledge that our chief deputy is who we are saying is this by statute under sheriff?
No, because I guess,
Attention.
in theory, I could call Carrie and say, Carrie,
You're under sheriff,
I want you to be my undersheriff, as long as you're a resident of.
Still
Richland
have-
County.
but then who would designate the chief deputy? How would you
So
have
see,
the,
I can,
how would you have the authority to designate the chief deputy then though? Designated him as your under sheriff, that's the one you
because
have.
the county created the position of chief deputy.
Okay,
When they created it, they basically copied and pasted the statutory wording for undersheriff. But I could say, but I as long as you're a resident of Richland County, I can say you are going to be the undersheriff.
they wouldn't necessarily get paid,
They don't get
they
paid.
wouldn't get
They
paid,
have zero authority until I'm incapacitated.
okay. So I don't think to do anything, is that?
But-
It actually causes more trouble than it solves. To bring up an earlier example, I know of a situation where a sheriff lost trust in their chief deputy revoked the undersheriff designation and appointed someone else. So now there is a chief deputy and an undersheriff operating concurrently.
So
We're not big enough to handle that.
yeah, and so there, and there, that is, there's one of the, some of the examples that I've seen throughout looking into this is, there are counties that have a chief deputy and they appointed one of their, most trusted lieutenants as their undersheriff, and that's not an uncommon occurrence in the state. But usually it's at the very least a department member and somebody of high rank. But it could literally be pick somebody from the community and.
And,
they're the
and,
undersheriff.
and there's times that that's happened because the sheriff and the chief deputy are traveling together on a transport or something like that, and if the sheriff and the undersheriff, which is also chief deputy, something happens, now where are we? So then the sheriff will appoint someone here on the ground.
If you included it in here, since you can't restrict his ability to name an undersheriff, all that you would be doing is immediately tying whoever he appoints as undersheriff as the chief deputy. This way allows greater flexibility. If for some reason he wanted to name someone other than his chief deputy as his undersheriff, he has that ability right now.
Okay, so I don't need to change anything.
Well, it used to be the sheriff, and then you would appoint the undersheriff, be the wife.
Yeah,
And then
Yeah, he's
it would go,
been-
then there's election every year for sheriff,
It's
and then they
Every
switch,
year?
the wife.
Every two.
Every other. Every
yeah,
other.
every two, yeah, so you,
Okay,
So then the wife would be sheriff, and then he would be appointed undersheriff.
And then the wife would resign and.
no, the wife would run.
No, the wife would run. She would be sheriff, and then she would appoint her husband as the sheriff.
If you look,
Uh,
if you look at the history of the sheriff of Richland County, there's, I want to say back in the 50s, there's a number of years where it was husband and then wife, and then husband, and then usually somebody else came in.
interesting.
Okay.
there a nepotism clause?
There's not.
It's
That's
an
It's an election.
not elected
Elected,
officials.
Up to the voters.
So I'm gonna leave that alone, and, I did think that there was here and after too many times in that A, because it says the chief deputy sheriff here and after, if you do this, chief deputy shall be selected and appointed in a manner set out here to after, or here and after. So that's minor, change that stuff. And then we added in C, we added jail administrator under the who's allowed to be qualifications. That was the only thing I changed, or we changed in that section. In D, I didn't change, so here's, I think, where we left off. Kind of duties of the chief deputy. Did anybody have anything that they thought needed to be added, changed, deleted, modified in section D, duties of chief deputy?
I did not have any notes on that.
I didn't either.
Any changes.
I mean, it seemed to make sense to me. Same thing with E. I did not see anything other than a few weird grammatical things. I didn't see anything that. And then the same thing with provisions and duties of the deputy sheriff road patrol lieutenant.
Other than changing.
Oh, see, what about the third in command thing? So, because now there's two people that are at equal,
So I'm back at
Oh.
duties of the chief deputy.
yeah,
Um,
which E or
D.
D? Okay, yeah.
The chief deputy shall assume the management of the department during times when the sheriff is outside the borders of Richland County, is on leave of absence, or is incapacitated. That last part specifically is incapacitated so as to be unable to discharge his duties as sheriff. That can't happen because that's the undersheriff's job.
Which in current form is not a problem because he is the undersheriff.
There's no practical impact, but,
Okay, so what do I have to change?
so
Chief deputy shall assume the management of the department during periods of times, is on a leave of absence or is incapacitated so as to be unable to discharge duties. That's the sentence I'm supposed to change?
at the very least, we have to take out the incapacitated line.
What were we at, the sentence?
So it's D, section D, and it's like 2/3 of the way through. The chief deputy, it starts with the chief deputy shall assume the management of the department during periods of time.
I see any duties related to the management and day-to-day operations. That blank? Whether orally or in writing.
No, it's below that. It's 1, 2, 3 lines below that. Chief deputy shall assume management of the department during periods of time. So I just have to delete or is incapacitated? So is unable to do,
So my challenge now comes up here.
What if a sheriff comes in and does not assign a undersheriff?
Required to,
It's required to by statute.
right?
We
And
would
so
sue
they,
them for a writ of mandamus. It's a court order ordering
No, you beat it to my job.
government official to do their job. It's actually like Marbury versus Madison. If you've ever heard that, that was part. of
so
it.
like a will, how do we know that the sheriff has changed that or not changed that? Tomorrow, the sheriff could say, hey, I want Carrie to be the undersheriff because here's what's going on. And then something happens. Where's our documentation to go,
know who
hey,
is
world,
actually officially the
guess what?
undersheriff?
Here
Every
it is.
appointment of an undersheriff or deputy except deputizations to perform a particular act, and every revocation of such appointment shall be in writing and filed and recorded in the office of the clerk of the circuit court.
There you go. Didn't know.
Clerk of the circuit court, not clerk,
Yeah, I
not
had-
clerk of the.
I had the
clerk
same
of
question.
county?
He has all of my deputy oaths.
So does she have the record of who the undersheriff is?
Yes, because when I swore Aaron in, it says chief deputy.
/
Undersheriff. Okay. Good.
Okay, so
Didn't know
I'm
that.
still getting what the problem with the incapacitated part is.
Oh, because that is statutorily a power that is assigned to the undersheriff.
Oh,
So we cannot by ordinance give that power to someone else.
oh, and we're saying, and that's why we did what I said, which was put in here that the chief deputy is in fact the undersheriff, then that would fix that.
Which actually,
I don't want to limit that.
Right, okay, so I should just delete it, is that what you're saying?
you know, and the thing is that if you go into the root of it, I think the chief deputy at least probably was always intended to be the undersheriff.
Of course.
Well, and I think there's a,
When this,
It would only be if the sheriff be kind of a jerk to not have the chief deputy be the undersheriff. I mean, honestly.
but
Or
in
the
Bob's
deputy
Bob's
would have to
point,
be a jerk.
though,
Or
like,
well, why
let's say Aaron and I are gonna go hunting in the mountains for 2 weeks and both be gone on the same trip. You know,
that's the
we
ability.
probably shouldn't do that, but, you know,
It's a transport that you have.
Don't you have to
Yeah.
designate someone else temporarily as the undersheriff?
Yeah, good.
No, well, no. So in that hypothetical, with my proposed change, the chief deputy would automatically assume the management of it, assuming that remains Aaron, then yeah, we run into that issue. We don't have a designee. Now, hopefully, you're be responsible enough to name someone to serve in your stead.
Yeah.
You know. whether
You're never
that's-
allowed to vacation together. But you could go to a
It's-
conference together out of the county.
Yes, they can do a
You
transport.
could go to a out of county conference or something.
But if you were also to go, that's not covered under the ordinance at all, so it would fall to your discretion to figure out.
Okay, so I'm just deleting that last part of that sentence?
Yes.
Delete it, done. So anything else with that paragraph? It is intended that the general policy of the department shall come from the sheriff, the chief deputy with the authority who delegated.
I guess my other suggestion would be is you'd solve it all by, we just go back to calling the person the undersheriff, but
We would be the first county in Wisconsin to
To
do
go-
so.
take
Go
that
back.
step back.
Yep.
Why can't the statutes just change their language to chief deputy?
Well,
That's what everybody's doing.
there was
But
a,
it does.
there was a court decision on that, and it's an annotation, which I'm trying to look up right now, that does mention that sheriff is interrelated to the word chief deputy. Or undersheriff is related to the word chief deputy. I was trying to find that
Because I think
commentary.
that's once you hit certain population points, isn't there a
Yeah, there was something with that, and that was an
Lot of
AG's decision.
chief deputies per population?
Yeah, so, I'm reading on that.
All right,
Anyway,
anything else I need to change then? In D or E? With the chief deputy duties? I mean, we can think a little bit more about it before we're final on this. You know, if there's some reason why we should muck around with that a little more, we can. Okay, so that brings us to the road patrol lieutenant. So my first question was in that first paragraph, it says third in command, but now we have 2 lieutenants. So what kind of language do we have to put there?
so
Is this person above the jail administrator or are they equal?
is the jail administrator or lieutenant?
Yes.
So
Oh,
I guess
well, I thought that's one.
for the purposes of, and this is where, when we had the discussion about the process, I guess for the purposes of where I look at it in a command structure, it's me, the chief deputy. You have the patrol lieutenant overseeing patrol.
But they're right here.
And the jail lieutenant overseeing.
Yeah, but they're
Or
equal.
the
They're on the same
jail
plane though, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But as far as their pay scale right now,
They're
it's not,
not.
so.
which I think is a mistake. Because they're essentially overseeing.
So
They're,
did you use the template of the lieutenant's position to write the other one, but modified it for
we utilized
the jail sergeant?
we utilized jail administrator. We based it off job descriptions. We didn't reinvent the wheel. So when it went to Carlson Detman, I think what we probably should have done,
Well, but with the new one, maybe it will get.
we should have said that this is a lieutenant level
Instead
position
of a jail.
instead of just jail administrator. And I think maybe that would have cleared it up. But,
So this person is not officially the title of lieutenant?
Technically not.
How does that
Towards the
work?
job description, yeah.
You just decide if someone's a lieutenant, you tell them they're a lieutenant, or how does it work?
well, and I guess that comes down to what we're doing here today, because in my mind, in the command structure, they're at the same level as a lieutenant.
They just don't officially have that title?
By job description, they don't. Yeah, it's just command structure. That's where they fall. I think they probably should be.
Okay, so I should get rid of the third in command, but what do we want to say there?
I still think you want third in command as your road patrol lieutenant.
And fourth would be, even though he thinks of them as being on the same tier?
Yeah, because it's two different structures.
Between the two, if something crazy is going on, you guys are incapacitated or unable to perform your duties, the person whose job it is to go handle things on the outside is probably going to be better in a crisis situation than someone who's sitting here. Plus, if they,
So the lieutenant, the road patrol one, makes sense that they would be your third,
I think
the
that's
third in line. Like if some disaster happened and you two were,
And I think it's important that we did. That's why I would say yes.
I would talk, we talk about being incapacitated. Where does the coroner come into play, managing the jail upon?
the
The
coroner becomes
Zero.
the sheriff at some point, but
The coroner can serve the sheriff papers.
Arrest.
But the coroner's supposed to take charge of the jail when the sheriff is not around.
when there is no sheriff or undersheriff in any county organized for judicial purposes, exercise all powers and duties of the sheriff of that county until a sheriff is elected or appointed and qualified.
go to the
If he
coroner.
was dead and that was dead, when he didn't appoint somebody else while we were both gone, then the coroner would take possession.
Which would create
That would have to be a real.
So we need to make sure that you designate, you need to have a procedure for you designated if you are both out of the county.
But I thought that if you were to get arrested or something, then
He's
I think
always
it
been
has
down
to.
at the corner, then
and when the sheriff is for any cause committed to the jail of that county because thereof during the time that the sheriff remains a prisoner there.
It exists because it happened, I'm sure.
Yeah.
right, so then
Nothing, like, happened 2 more
the
months.
undersheriff can't take charge if he's in jail because he was appointed. That's
Oh,
where the coroner comes in.
I see. That does make sense.
Okay, yes, so
The coroner would take.
You
If
can't
you got
arrest
arrested.
him?
if you got arrested, you could not run the jail.
Yeah,
The
arrested.
coroner would
Just run the jail.
just run the jail.
But
The
that makes-
keeper of the jail.
I'm not sure.
Very
If
much.
you have a jail lieutenant, why wouldn't the coroner be more?
Qualified,
care.
yeah.
Take that up with the state legislature.
Because it's a elected.
Okay.
position.
Okay, well, let's not go down to a rabbit hole.
Forever.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave the language as third in command. I think that does make
I think
sense.
we should.
And then we should designate the,
I don't even, it's like third in
He
command.
also serves you if you're named in a suit.
Correct.
yes.
The coroner?
Yes.
Okay, anyhow. Does anyone have anything to change under selection of the road patrol lieutenant? So I think we do want to make sure the language sort of,
So I had, and I don't remember if we got this far the last time.
we did not. No, we didn't get this far.
So in my documents, I thought I had made some notes on here. So when I was under 4. under 4, I think my question was, is do we want to do,
The same scenario.
do we want to do that? Or do we want to, similar to earlier, have a committee member
So
part of that?
my first thought was yes, but then I was like, but this is a high level position. Sort of like a department head within a department. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
so is it, and it's not like this happens all the time, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So to me, it felt like that if there was a scenario in which it's appropriate for them to come before the entire committee, this and the jail administrator one would make sense for that.
And so then that was, and I didn't make it as a note to change. It was a, do we want to keep this question?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't mind it. I think it went well, with the lieutenant position. But
I mean, for those positions, I thought it was really good to see how they handled themselves in front of, because when you get to the higher management, you're going to be dealing with county committees and county board members and not as much obviously as you two, but I did think it was good for them to come before a bigger body that with a little more, you know.
I don't have any issues with keeping it as is. It was where my train of thought was, is that, you know, the discussions we had regarding efficiency and not even just that, is like, you know, I don't know how to word it. Yeah, it seemed that you very much would defer to my opinion.
Of course we would.
And so,
But that might not always be true. Like, it's
yeah,
because it has a lot to do with the person who's in the position of sheriff.
yes,
So, I mean, I'm always looking at this with the idea of what if it's not you and it's someone who is less than, like, that's wanting to hire their buddy.
yeah.
You know, like, wanting to promote based on criteria other than they're the best person for the job.
You get a constitutional sheriff or something.
Right. So I think that's the kind of thing we want to safeguard ourselves from. So I think for these top positions, I do think it makes sense to keep it at the more, obviously it is a little, but for this kind of position, I mean, taking a little more time, I think, because it's most likely going to be from within the department.
Mhm.
Not always, but
Not always.
but for the most part, it would most likely be an internal candidate.
Yeah. I think we probably got the closest to that we ever have been with the jail administrator, because then we only had 2 candidates. So
Right.
we could have very easily been, we weren't far away from looking outside.
Right.
In that,
Right, if you hadn't found qualified.
yeah.
Is she able to go out on the road, or she's got all that privileges?
Yep, she's a certified law enforcement officer, so
But
she,
she's active, like you can be certified, but I can't. I can be certified, but I can't.
yeah,
You give them a.
because she worked patrol for us for a number of years.
She's deputized.
She's been trained. Yeah, she's deputized. She has completed our field training program. She could do, I'm confident that she could go out on the road today and do everything that the rest of the deputies could do. I'm very
I
confident.
like those two that could work together in any form. It's just that her main is,
Her focus is.
her focus is the jail, or his focus, whatever the other one is focused on outside the jail. Yeah.
Okay,
He's
So-
maintaining law and order, and she's maintaining the order of the jail.
so I'm gonna leave for the same, the language the same as far as the interviewing and the process. We're gonna leave that process the same. All right, what about qualifications?
Under qualifications, very first paragraph, it says upon appointment, in this case shall become a resident of Richland County. Upon appointment, is that a little limiting as to,
Give any time to move if they need to.
yeah, there's no time to move,
I think,
especially with the Act 10 change where they don't have to live in the
yeah.
county.
Chief Deputy.
And so my note on that is, do we keep the residency requirement?
Right.
Well, doesn't that undersheriff say that it's gotta be a resident in the county within 10 days?
The undersheriff does.
Yeah, the undersheriff within 10 days.
Yeah.
So could we just say the same language?
10 days is not a lot of time to move, if you need to move.
Well, it would get them to, whether you're staying in a hotel or whatever, or a vacation thing, you're within the county, but then does it have to be your address?
Your permanent residence.
The question of what is a residence has come
Yes.
up and it's been somewhat debatable.
Oh, yeah.
They more or less a permanent or intended to be permanent locale where you sleep. So
So-
a hotel is by definition not intended to be permanent, and so I would not say that that would meet a residence.
An apartment,
An apartment.
temporary apartment, month by month.
Like I consider Candace a resident.
Absolutely.
City.
Yeah.
Richland County.
So we're not allowed to make them become a resident, or we are allowed?
I don't think we are.
I don't think so either.
So I should just delete that sentence.
So, but you are allowed to give them a response time condition.
Which loosely, what I have right now is, I don't have a response time. I should start. I do not have a response time condition with anybody currently. I've been allowing people to take squads outside of the county to their residence out to 10 miles from,
Okay.
from the border.
So would that fall true for a lieutenant's position also?
Yeah.
Okay, so they could be outside the county.
Mhm.
So there's the question of whether, how we keep that common interest.
Well, so is that particular policy in the take-home vehicle policy?
Did we make a 10-mile? Did we put 10 miles in policy?
Mhm.
We should. Well, I guess it's.
So that would be something we could change in the policy. It
Yeah.
does not have to be in this ordinance.
Yeah. So,
So I'm deleting the road patrol upon appointment shall become a resident. Correct?
As written, it just makes the person a resident. Like they don't actually have to move. They could live in.
Oh, that's true.
Fond du Lac or Ashland, but
Right, it does.
we could just, yeah.
which township are they paying taxes in?
Yeah, right.
And how do they?
Oh, you're up in Rice Lake? Well, we're getting all the property taxes for your houses now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm deleting it. All right,
Good point, yeah.
I found a typo in it next thing. So is there anything else? Okay, now what about the last one? Any person who vacates, oh, you have something before that?
And so I don't know if this was a me change. I'm looking at mine and not yours. 3 months probationary period.
Oh, instead of 6,
It's 3 months.
it's 3 months?
If you had the ability to extend that,
We do have the ability to.
But that's within our personnel policy somewhere?
Yeah. Oh, they changed it 3 months.
Okay.
6.
You only have a 3-month probation period? Interesting. Okay.
For existing employees moving into a new position.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, right.
New employee is still here.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I had a question about the last one there. Any person who vacates the position of lieutenant in 1996 to become sheriff?
Was right.
Did the lieutenant become sheriff?
Yeah, he was appointed by the governor. And
Oh,
so there was a 2-year window in there where the question was if he didn't get reelected, what would happen?
happened to him. Okay, so I can just delete that,
So I did something similar with mine.
right? You were appointed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna delete that. Oops. Hold on. Okay, so that brings us to duties of the road patrol lieutenant. Other than changing law enforcement committee to public safety committee and sheriff's department to sheriff's office.
There's a delegated word that separated DELE space.
Yeah,
It was a
okay.
typo thing.
So I had one in here, and it's down, it's under D,
Yeah,
and I think it was a me change, not a change. The road patrol lieutenant shall assume any duties related to being a deputy sheriff and the manager of the day-to-day patrol operations.
where is that? Let's see. Oh, it's after orally or written in writing, duties shall continue at the time established by the sheriff.
So I'm under duties of road patrol.
Yep, so the road patrol lieutenant shall delegate responsibility to other employees of the department.
Like
Not below that.
7 lines down, it actually starts a new sentence on a new line, which is.
Road patrol responsibilities during periods of time.
No, so if the line starts with committee on mine, let me home.
It starts with the road patrol lieutenant shall also assume any duties related to being a deputy sheriff and manager of the day-to-day operations.
Day-to-day patrol operations is what I had in there.
This just says day-to-day operations in ours.
You know, he's adding patrol, he's saying. What's
They're in, and I guess my thought for discussion on that, my thought was is that they are in charge of patrol operations. We now have a jail administrator or a jail lieutenant who is in charge of jail operations.
So when you're gone, who's handling the office questions? Isn't that part of the day-to-day operations that Amber has a question or type of? Isn't that the day-to-day operations?
That's why you think Amber handles the day-to-day operations, like as far as in the office, but if he designate as patrol operations, I mean, that's.
I mean, maybe we do leave it.
Just as operations.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I guess I was just looking at narrowing that, but if you know, in the event that Aaron and I are not available.
Well, it says you get to specify what.
Right.
So any duties and management of day-to-day operations specified by the sheriff or chief deputy. So as written, you have the maximum possible flexibility if there's just something that you want them
Let's
to
leave
handle.
that out then, yeah.
Leave it the way it is.
Leave it the way it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anything else in that section D then? What about E? Okay, so then, and I should have included this and I apologize for not doing it. Clay had already written a section that essentially goes through the same thing, but with the jail administrator, specified to jail administrator. I mean, I don't think you changed any of the language other than to just specify it's in the jail. Like, I don't think there was any substantive changes to the language from road patrol.
It wasn't, there might have been. Do you want me to send it to you so you can look at it right now?
I've got it. I put it in my version.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, you guys, that I didn't do that before.
So the other thing was to Michael's point, I did specify day-to-day jail operations. So let's remove jail from that.
Oh, so I gotta find that again in this paragraph? Jeez. Let's see what you
Do you
do.
also want to put language in that clarifies that road outranks jail or vice versa?
So what I'll do is we will put in fourth in command. Because I had it as third still, so.
You do, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would not have been the time to find out about that.
yeah.
It's what's ordinance, are we gonna keep it as designated as jail dispatch administrator?
Yeah, that's what I was,
Looking to switch it to lieutenant, jail lieutenant.
I mean, if we change the language in here, doesn't that get us?
I think we just end up changing it
In description.
in the job description.
So I think we need to change it.
So when we go, when
could change it.
we resubmit,
I think we should change it in here. That gives it more.
Because you guys made shoes to make that lieutenant a captain, then you have your
Oh, and then there's how do you
captain
spell it?
lieutenant.
what is it, LIEU?
I know,
What's the position called in statute? Is it called jail administrator in statute?
Yes, it is.
So just call it jail administrator in the ordinance, and then in the job description, you can just say that it will suit the statutory duties of the jail administrator. And then you can call it jail captain or.
Is it referred to?
Yeah,
as
so-
Is it actually referred to as administrator in the?
It is.
I guess I don't know if there's a reference to it in statute.
No, it's
To designate,
federal.
you have to designate.
Well, yeah,
Every
if it's
county-
me,
Is it
or
in,
was me.
was you, isn't it in chapter 59? Each county shall designate or something?
Charge and custody of the jail.
Because, yeah, to Bob's point, at different agencies, you know, Sauk County, I believe, is a captain. Vernon County is a captain.
Vernon County's captain. There's some that's just a jail lieutenant as well.
Yeah.
So am I changing, while you're looking that up, am I changing the day-to-day operations to just say operations instead of jail and dispatch center specified by the sheriff? Just say of operations specified by the sheriff and delete jail and dispatch? You want them to have the,
I think they should have that availability still too.
to do either, I mean, they might fill in on the road patrol side if they had to, or
Yeah.
I
wherever.
think you should do.
So I'm gonna delete up jail and dispatch center there then.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not adding lieutenant title to this,
Not yet.
is what I heard so far. After I spelled it right now. It's a stupid word.
Just gotta remember why you.
Yeah, okay.
Go back to the old lieutenant.
Yeah, where did that come from? The F part, because it was never spelled with an F, was it?
It's only in Britain. Like
Oh.
all military ranks that we use are based in French, right? That's why like colonel is pronounced with an R.
Oh, yeah, colonel is stupid too.
Yeah, close.
Yeah, there's no R in that word.
The military, silly military. Okay, so. And I think the selection of the jail administrator, again, I think because it's that same level, we'll keep the procedure the same as it currently is.
Yep. Did I have it, exactly as?
I think you just copied it.
I just want to double check that in case I did.
I mean, I'll make sure to make sure they're essentially the same.
There is the shall become a resident, so that.
Yeah, I know, I'm just gonna delete that too.
Yeah.
And just delete the whole sentence.
Ordinance states you as the sheriff / jailer / or keeper of the jail. It doesn't say administrators, did I? Found so.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know that, and that's my thing, I don't know that jail administrator is a reference in state statute.
So then we should say jail administrator or lieutenant. What do you call it one? Road patrol,
Road patrol lieutenant
road patrol lieutenant, jail administrator lieutenant?
or jail lieutenant.
You could just make it like go on to jail lieutenant / administrative.
Yeah.
All right, we can
Maybe.
we can mess around with that later. Okay, so is there anything, so for the you guys that aren't seeing what we're seeing, it really, the language is pretty much the same. You just swapped out jail
Mhm.
for road patrol.
Yep.
So then that brings us to the section on powers of the sheriff to make work rules. I saw some typos in that first one, change the public safety thing. I did wonder under 2 where it talks about having to hand deliver
Mail in, yeah. I saw
mail.
that.
I'm like, can we just say electronic delivery? I mean, like, it just seemed really,
Where was that one?
so this is number 2, where you have to, once you've made a rule, you have to publicize it by putting it on the bulletin board, but then you have to circulate it either by personal delivery, placing a copy in their document box, which I don't know why we're not calling it a mailbox, or electronic. I was gonna say we could add electronic delivery. I don't know what's a standard communicating.
So currently, if we create, edit, or edit a policy, when it is issued, it goes, they get notified electronically, either by their phone or by email.
So that's what you're saying, it needs to be
Yeah.
electronic.
So can I say by electronic
Yes.
delivery
I think that's fine.
and get rid of the personal delivery?
I don't think, yeah, we don't.
Honestly,
We just say that
take
they'll,
out everything after department.
just say it shall be circulated to every employee and not designate how.
That imposes the same restriction on him, but allows him maximum flexibility.
Of how to do it.
Exercise.
I think that sounds good. What about if they're on a leave of absence or on vacation or sick leave?
Still incumbent on him to provide him with that service. So if he's
Okay.
got a
Yeah,
I would say in that instance, with our current system,
They can look at it.
when they
Yeah.
returned, well, they
They would get it
they
at
can
home.
pull it up on the phone.
Do they get
So now,
department phones or do they have a personal phone?
Some,
All road patrol has department.
Okay,
but they can log into the policy system from any computer. It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's web-based, so.
So if someone were out for 30 days and you called me up and said, hey, how should I get this proposed? I'd probably recommend mailing it just to be safe, but I don't think that needs to be in the ordinance itself. I think just letting the sheriff know.
So am I deleting all of that? In the event that employees on leave of absence, vacation, sick leave, and not expect to return, just delete all of that and just say that a copy of such proposed work shall be circulated to every employee of the department, period. Because if they're on vacation or sick leave, they're still an employee of the department.
Just remember though, that they can be compensated, they can ask for compensation for their time reviewing that policy when they're not at work.
I'm never gonna order them to do it on their own time.
That'd be on their own thing.
We have to provide it, but they don't have to read it.
They can ask for that, if they're like out on like workers' comp, or they're not scheduled at work, and then they're reviewing emails and doing policy, they can ask for compensation back. Because they're actually doing the job.
If only if he gives them direct order, they have to do it at that time. If he's not giving them order that they have to review it at that time, then they can do it when they return to work.
That would be better.
Okay, so I'm deleting that entire section. Past, circulated to every employee of the department, period.
And all members of the public safety committee that encompasses.
Oh, us too?
Well, that's the final part of that paragraph.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
That leads nicely into this section.
Public. Oh my gosh.
So the other
Same thing,
question
you email
is,
Barb puts it all on their iPads.
so the other question is that we have, I can't remember the last time that you guys ever saw our, like.
I was wondering, this, the number three here, and we have not done. So we should probably do that, just as a, like, just look at them all and be like, yep, they look good.
How much time do we have?
But then, there again, that's something you could do, 2 policies a meeting. 2 topics.
2 or 3 years.
There's no way you're gonna get through the whole.
That can wait till.
We could just, or to solve that issue, do you give the chair, the committee chair,
Access.
an email address so they can actually go in and review all the policies? Because all I have to do is put your email address in here.
Oh, that would be
and you
good.
go and you look at the policies.
That would be ideal, I think.
So I should change this. So what about this language though?
Maybe just put the
Because
committee.
we technically can override your policies, I think is the point of this ordinance. And we haven't been even paying attention.
We're the policy.
Yeah. I mean, I've made you bring policies before, like your
You're not
force
the maker of
policy.
the approvals of the
Yeah,
policies.
yeah, we make, I make.
I make it, but we still gotta prove it. We can edit and put whatever we want in.
Because this is saying if we disapprove, we have 45 days. to
Within
disapprove.
certain,
So
That's,
So this
You do not have-
specific policy is delegating to him the authority to make these work rules. So you don't actually have the power to approve them, you have the power to disapprove. So he can make them. That's a power that the board has already given to him by adopting this.
By
ordinance.
the policy, we can take that policy.
I would
out.
say
Yeah.
constitutional.
You can take that policy out.
Probably a constitutional, that's a mundane and commonplace.
And I would
Or-
rather
The sheriff.
not cause a constitutional crisis and have everybody suing each other, because then I can figure out who I represent, so.
So is there an issue? What about 3, 4? I mean, I assume 3, 4, 5, and 6 all have to do with if we disagree with what the sheriff's doing. Which I think this is a case where if you have a sheriff who's not in.
So this
tune with
is
the
meant
county
to
board.
allow the sheriff the operational flexibility he needs to maintain order and operations in his department, while at the same time providing the oversight.
Yes.
So there is civilian oversight, not in this case, but
Right.
so there is elected officials overseeing the work rules that he is putting in place, and you have the authority to overturn them
Yep.
if you disagree.
And that's by law, that's okay.
Yeah, these are work rules.
Okay.
Technically, you don't have to give them the power to do this at all.
This is the whole
But
purpose
again,
of
that would be
government,
constitutional.
Right. Okay. So,
I think you should put in there somewhere that committee chair or some part of the committee gets access.
gets notified when,
Yeah.
Well, that's already,
well, we just put that in there, but we haven't been getting notified. So,
Where does freedom of information come in that if they want to?
We release our policies to be.
Policies.
yeah,
we
we've
have
had
lots you can get
2 or 3
access to.
requests that I've been involved with.
Yeah, and those are just the ones that I,
That way-
and we've talked about at least 2 that I've asked to bring before committee just to talk about.
yeah, we get requests for our policies all the time. It's, if there's a red flag that pops with them, I usually call Michael and say, hey, we got this, just so you're aware, or we let him weigh in on.
The
Yeah.
exact
You
specification.
get so many that are like, just,
So,
So this doesn't address the backlog of policies which may
Right.
already exist, but going forward, it's incumbent on you. Like I said, I think email Barb can upload it onto their iPads
Or we just do the access for the email. I mean, does everybody in the committee need to have access, or should this be, we could just add all the members, because all it is adding.
well,
email.
the issue we may run into is that our subscription is user-based. So if we add too many users, we may run into a problem.
right,
We have to remember to delete those people if they're no longer on our committee as well.
every 2 years, be changing.
Yeah.
So,
Which I can delete.
Yeah, I think-
so.
But we can also, the way Aaron is proposing it, I think is almost ideal, because every time he makes a change, you would be notified immediately. So if him and I sit down and decide we're gonna change X, and then we issue the policy, you're gonna get the policy. It's gonna land in your email.
I think, because then you've fulfilled your requirement, you've let us know, and if we don't, within 45 days, if we don't take action, then your policy stands.
we could change this to just read the copy of the proposed work rule provided to the chair, and then the chair.
Can decide whether it goes to committee. Is that okay with you guys? Do you want the chair to be the
The other thing is we have work rules
gatekeeper?
and we have policies too. So what are we talking about?
This is work rules specifically.
I mean, are we specifically intending policies? Because there is actually a document, work rules, that's separate.
Yeah, this only says work rules. This does not say policies.
It says work rules pertaining and to establish, okay, so actually, it gives you both powers. So the power to make
Policies and
rules
procedures.
and establish departmental policies.
Policies. Yep, the first paragraph does say departmental policies.
All right.
So it would be all of everything essentially.
Any proposed work?
Well, but
Yeah.
A, if you go up to A, the first sentence,
But so statutorily, the canons of statutory interpretation, language is chosen with specificity and purpose. And so if something is included somewhere and then omitted later, the interpretation is that that omission was purposeful. And so those things were not intended to be included. As written, all of this only applies to work rules.
well, but the pertaining doesn't even make sense. 'Cause
No, it doesn't.
I was gonna delete that because work rules pertaining and to establish departmental policies doesn't make sense. So I thought it was supposed to read the power to make work rules and to establish department policies and procedures. So without the word pertaining, it's encompassing our policies and procedures and our work rules.
Because I'm trying to think, I mean, our work rules, we really haven't changed our work rules much as far as that document is concerned.
No, that hasn't been.
And I think that what we care about
That's-
are like your youth force policy and I can't think the other ones that we've talked about, but I mean, those are the ones that I do think this committee
Yeah.
cares about. We actually care about those.
Do you remember historically that we brought policy changes before the committee?
Sadly, I don't remember ever doing that,
So no one has ever.
other than when we created.
Well, again, right now, this only applies to work rules.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's what
So
that's what I'm wondering, because I don't think Aaron had, I don't
Work
think
rules
I've
we
ever
brought.
changed the work rules.
I think there has been, or is work, well, that's, no, you're right.
So do we want to leave it as only work rules and not even get into the other? Committee,
Pondering.
just work rules?
I mean, if the committee has concerns.
Understand.
Even if it's not in this, I think it's a good idea to have the chair be attached to the email list that gets access to
Policies.
the policies.
Yeah, I would agree.
Even if it's not attached to this ordinance, I think it's still a good idea.
It certainly would, it would have helped me several times in the last 6 years to have access to the, I keep having to ask you guys to send them to me.
It would have been so easy that you could have just logged in and.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what am I hearing here? We want to leave it just for, just work rules? And so it's only as work rules pertain to department policies that we care about? Or do we care about work rules and department policies and procedures?
Department policies and procedures identified anywhere else in this need to be.
I would say, my thought is work rules. I guess my basis for that is that policy is policy is fluid, like, we're not saying that we just change it all the time, but it's an ever-changing thing.
And we care about your employees, like from our perspective. They are our employees. We pay them. But you're making rules that govern how they work. So that might be why this came about, as far as why this is even in here.
So are we
I agree
just,
with that.
Yeah, so not so much your procedures as the work rules, because we don't want you telling your staff they can do something that no other employees can do, which conflicts that we would want input on. And maybe to override
Or he'd be really, really restricted though, that all
That-
your employees don't want to work there because the sheriff's making.
because he's making these work rules that are just
Yeah. And,
unreasonable.
and then the other thing on the policy note too is that one of the frequent enough changers of policy is statute. Yep. Or US code
Mhm.
or,
We don't want to be having to mess with this ordinance.
Yeah. So I may make a policy change that somebody doesn't agree with, but it's mandated by federal
Statute.
code or
That's
state
where you list
statute.
that. In
Yeah. And it
or
is.
US code,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, so we're gonna stick to work rules. Okay, so then you'll just let the public safety committee chair know, and then the chair can decide. That way we don't have, you don't have to add 8 or 7 email addresses to.
so then are we striking into established department policies and procedures?
Well, I think it's work rules as they pertain to,
Okay, just making sure that.
right? So I just have to reword that, right?
Okay. Right, should we word it?
Is that the right way to say it? Power to make work rules
So either the power to make work rules,
pertaining
implement
to a
policies and procedures, or the power to make work rules and to establish departmental policies and procedures. So the work rules and departmental policies and procedures are two separate clauses.
So, I mean, we're saying we're giving him the power to make the procedures, the policies and procedures, which does he have statutorily? Doesn't he have that right already?
That would be the normal course of his duty.
So why would we define it, right? Like, but the work rule part, maybe that's not defined by statute.
Or you could just take out and establish departmental policies.
That's what I'm wondering.
entirely.
Yeah,
Hold on a second.
I'm thinking we just put to make work rules to any or all positions within.
I think it's okay to leave, and then down below under 3, you have that you have the right to
It says work rule.
disapprove of work rules.
I just don't want anyone to ever say that you have, you know, like if someone wanted to be a jerk, they could be like, you know, every time you change your policy, you need to let us know. Like,
Yeah.
what if someone came into this committee and wanted to just like micromanage everything you do?
Well, and I think that's where we don't want to get into a constitutional authority battle. Whereas
Right.
I look at that as something that's common, mundane and commonplace in the, authorities of my duty.
That's why I'm afraid of opening it up to policies and procedures because I think work
I
rules,
think
we're on solid ground telling you that your work rules need to make sense.
But I think the delineation between work rules and policy and procedure, where I have the authority to make work rules and policy and procedures, but you have the authority
To
to
override just work rules.
override my work rules. I
Oh,
think that
okay,
delineation-
now I'm seeing what you're saying.
That delineation is important.
Yes.
Yeah, right, 'cause
Okay, so I'm just gonna get rid of pertaining, and the sentence would say the power to make work rules and to establish department policies and procedures to any and all the positions within the department.
And then it says right there,
Yeah.
work.
Work rules may be established in accordance with procedure unit set for.
Okay.
They really like that here and afterward, set for. That's twice in the same sentence in that one too.
It's hard enough for billables.
Yeah. Okay, so then that brings us to, so then I'm gonna say committee chair, right? We decided, in item 2. Department and Public Safety Committee Chair. And then item 3, we have 45 days to disapprove. So that brings us to what we can do if we don't agree with your work rules. And then anything with a leave of absence for military service. I thought there was a couple of words in that sentence during, for the during, period during. I just got rid
Typo.
of during and for the period during which said employee. They like that too, which said employee. Carryover on becoming sheriff. So I assume this is just safeguarding your position, your previous position, and when you are no longer sheriff, if you take a Does that ever happen where someone is a sheriff and then they go back to just being a regular deputy?
So I don't think that's ever happened.
Chief deputy, I've said it's happened.
Oh, for sure, but sheriff?
Sheriff-
Was this the one that I had emailed you about where Candace and I were having a discussion and I wish she was here as well?
So
So,
the 25 months probably relates to the 2-year term.
Oh, 25 months, sorry. So this is what,
But that makes sense, it had been for like,
was this what I had added when I became?
no, I don't think
This
so.
is-
This
this
has
is
been there a while.
This is the
Berglund
Berglund
did
one?
this, because that was 2-year terms.
Okay, so
And that protected it for 2 years.
I wanted to discuss this and I was hoping, I could get Candace, because Candace and I had a discussion on that. So this is gonna be my selfish plug in all of this.
At least you're honest.
It is what it is.
Self-serving.
And I say it because I took the position knowing I lost my sick leave. Right? I knew that was happening when I was appointed, when I ran, I knew that was,
You don't get sick leave as sheriff?
no, I don't have time off.
Oh, you're
Does what he
24/7.
wants.
So if you're sick, you just stay home.
So when I became sheriff, I believe it was 1,008 hours of sick leave.
Almost max.
So
Almost minutes.
does this county where you can use sick leave to pay for health insurance
Yes.
premiums? So you lost that when you
So-
retired?
That's my question is,
Oh, that seems-
could we restore that? Obviously, I don't use it. We know I'm not gonna use it, but upon retirement,
That's a benefit you earned for the years that you
yeah,
were a
it was a
deputy.
benefit. It was a benefit that.
Right.
You lose your vacation.
No, they paid it out.
Paid out vacation.
But they
paid out-
frequently don't pay out sick leave.
I know.
They paid out my sick leave comp when I became chief deputy.
sick leave comp got paid out. It's-
Okay, comp time. Comp time is chief deputy.
So sick leave.
Sick leave, oh, the sick leave comp side, right.
2 days you got.
They paid out that balance when I became, so all my other benefit times that I had on the books at the time of appointment were paid to me. But the sick leave just disappeared.
I mean, that doesn't seem fair. I mean, I
It's also a
understand,
risk that you take when you take the position and you know it.
right?
If you don't like it, then don't take the position.
And so that's where I don't expect it, but I wanted to have that. I mentioned it to Candace. It was a discussion I wanted to
So do you have any idea how they handle it in other counties?
It's different with each county, I think.
Of course,
Uh,
it's always.
I'm trying to think, I could put out a poll to find out how many counties are allowed to carry it. I'm trying to,
Policy issue for.
I believe Steve got his paid out.
Mitchell?
Mhm. I think that's where my idea originally came from.
No.
Uh,
As a county, kind of set our sick leave, whether wash sick leave and don't use it, you lose it, or yes, we'll pay you out, but we keep 5% of it.
But this is different for elected officials than regular employees. And that's what's going on here is the elected
Right.
official who doesn't have sick leave because they come and go as they want. And they don't have to fill in the form. They don't have to check with the doctor. You could go out on a whatever you want for the next,
You can show up 1
6
day a year. and no-
yeah, show up one day a year and then call the rest.
For me, I'm like-
And it doesn't matter. The other employees can't do that. And
my
that's
chief
why we
deputy
have.
might hate me.
Then you fire doing a new one. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can't make a thing for his sick leave right now, like, that's gotta come.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, this ordinance clearly says that it's lost.
Right.
This says that it will be, It
So
would
it's
forfeit.
beyond the scope of what we're agenda, but if that were to be contemplated, that would need to be a separate action.
so we would need to modify this ordinance in the future.
That's what I would say, is that's why I bring it up now.
Probably should go to finance, or, well, it can come to public safety and then go to
Yeah.
finance.
That's why I bring it up now, because we're working on the ordinance.
Yeah.
Right.
And so any potential changes would have to go all the way through the county board.
Well, I mean, technically they wouldn't. We could change this language in this ordinance and then the county would have to, if
Well,
we voted
they have
to
to-
county.
They would have to,
Have the discussion.
But it makes sense to just leave
that would be a
it.
very big discussion.
So you're wanting to have sick leave then?
He's a
No, he wants it
One
just
might
sitting
be
there.
allowed.
When he retires, like say he retires at 52, he could use that sick leave to put towards his insurance costs, his health insurance costs, after he retires, turns 65.
That's what I'm doing. So I left UW 8 years ago, but but I still have my sick leave just sitting there waiting for me to turn 55 in June. And then it will start paying my health insurance premium. It's really nice.
This June?
This June, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I
Madam
don't
Chair,
want I'm only retiring, not for the money, but because I want my health insurance premium paid so that I don't have to pay
I
that.
think
out of
Davis has
pocket.
an issue with that whole thing.
I mean, it could say the same thing that it is for all the rest of the
So-
employees. If you
so-
get hired, she wants for insurance, he gets, what, 80% gets put out?
So her
70%.
experience, the sheriff
Madam Chair.
got to carry it.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I have to leave I've got a 3:00 work meeting, so.
Carrie's here now, so we still have quorum. So
All right,
thank you.
very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
I do think this merits more conversation, because I mean, you earned that time. And
So in my
still
conversation with
here.
Candace, I recall her saying that, so her sheriffs that came from within the department got to keep that balance. So it's different everywhere.
I mean, it's money, it's cost the county money.
It could
Yeah.
also be. a
But see, now
discussion.
we're keeping it on the books for how many years now? We'll have to keep it there. But,
And does that increase in value? How do you calculate so
Yes.
many days?
Right.
I think it's based on, no, it's based on the value of your salary when you left. That's
Okay,
that's
that's
how the
what we have
state
to
does it.
identify.
Yeah. When I left
The position, when
So-
it was frozen and you left.
so my pay when I
When-
left chief deputy. Yep.
That's how it is for me. It's based on the pay when I left.
So that value is dropping at the inflation rate then, basically.
It is, but it's something.
Still there.
It's still something.
Right.
Okay, so let's,
Sick leave. And vacation.
a lot of times, a lot of people don't get paid out for sick leave.
Yeah,
A lot of places. Sick leave. So I think, yeah, let's not have any more discussion here. Because we're not gonna, we'll leave the language as it is right now. As what I'm hearing. What about this labor contract? I don't see anything
I didn't see anything in
to
there.
change there, or the severability.
I didn't have it.
Words and phrases, he did ask that I change sheriff's department to sheriff's office, unless anyone has a reason for me not to do that.
Application?
And then previous ordinances, I don't know, we would probably change that language into something. I mean, I assume we're gonna repeal 89.7 and make a new one.
So, the city does a thing for this where it just says, all ordinances and provisions that, contradict this one or are contrary to this ordinance are hereby repealed and replaced.
So I'll just put in language like that. Okay. And then we get to the Huber thing, which I didn't know that was even, I didn't remember that this was even in here. Are these numbers
Those are
not correct? And we want to be able to change those numbers. So do we have a,
Actually, it's a dollar.
In the codification project, we're taking this whole section out
Out.
and putting it in the fee schedule.
okay, so I can delete it.
Yeah, because we're not following that. currently.
And what about housing prisoners out of, in our jail for other
I don't
places,
think that's enough money to house.
right? We don't want the $50 in there. We want to charge more than that, right?
Yeah.
So am I deleting that, or we want language, would that also go in the fee schedule?
That would, so a daily fee as determined by the, most recent fee schedule.
So I need to keep the language in here, but say that it will be on a fee schedule.
Or should we just remove fees that can't be in the fee schedule, like you said, another one, you don't really need to have in here, you already have a fee schedule to show us how much we're gonna charge.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's even in here.
I mean,
Would you agree with that? Mike?
Yeah, I mean,
just delete the whole section.
yeah, yeah. There's an argument to be made for having it clear. But yeah, I mean, how
I
often
mean,
is
do
the
we want it
federal
clear-
government gonna come in and read our ordinance governing?
Other than, do we have to set by ordinance that we are going to charge for the service?
Well, we'll be doing that as part of the fee schedule.
So the note in here, see fee schedule.
So I
Or
leave it in, but I
fee
say
schedule.
see fee schedule, or I take it all out because
I
we're
say
just,
leave it in
because
and
it's just.
see fee schedule.
I agree with that.
Cause I think when I was looking at changing things, I got an example from Vernon County. And I believe their fee schedule is its own ordinance, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, cause Huber fees, all that stuff was under that.
Right.
So you can put that for both, you
And then that
and
way-
for the,
And housing prisoners, yep, that would do both.
So I'm gonna say see fee schedule ordinance in both of those.
Yes.
So get rid of all of the rate stuff.
So it's gonna add a step in successive years or however often we want to look at the fee schedule ordinance, but it means that things aren't gonna get stuck like this. Because there's an ordinance nobody's looked at in 30 years.
Right. Okay, what about disposal of lost, abandoned, or seized property?
Has that changed at all other than the school district?
You had some
ordinance?
suggested changes for that. I don't,
I don't
I think it was 3 months.
Was it in the previous version you sent me, Clay? Because I'd have that in front of me. Look,
No, I don't.
no, I don't see any changes in that one.
So I think what it was is that the ordinance. I think what it was is under C, maybe retained or used by the sheriff. I think what you were looking for is a state statute allows us to dispose of.
That's what it was, yeah. There's some stuff that like we have at the impound shed sits there forever. And then it's just not, has no value. So instead of having to bring it to the committee to get approval to do whatever, we can dispose of it. It's got no value.
Yeah,
Okay, so I just need to add a D that would say, because you're saying, well, C is saying that if you can't sell it for a reasonable price, that you might want to use it.
Which I.
Then D would be, and if it's not useful, we want to throw it away. Or do you want me to just add a sentence that says, or if it's not useful, we will throw it away?
Or disposed of it and.
Well, I'll use the right words and throw away, but.
Well, so this is a debate that has been surprisingly vigorous. My understanding of the word disposed of means do something with.
Oh, not thrown in the
Not
trash.
necessarily.
Not
Oh.
destroyed.
Or thrown away.
Destroyed would be probably a good language to use, or, well, no, because we aren't personally
Yeah,
destroying, we're gonna give it to someone who's gonna destroy it, yeah.
And that, I mean,
So what is,
throw
what
it in a
is the state
dumpster.
statute?
Yeah, so what should we say?
Yeah, so
Dispose-
the statutory citation is out of date because 66.28 doesn't exist.
Oh, really?
So I have to
Interesting.
figure out what that got changed into. And I can read that. Also, as part of the codification is removal of statutory citations like this for exactly this reason.
There's another one down there too. Sections 161.55 and 161.555. Wisconsin statutes, I wonder if that's still. Okay, cool.
Six oh one three.
Okay, we're only at 2 hours. I'm pretty happy. I thought this was gonna be like a 5 hour.
And it's been good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is the, when we were doing that car, this is the thing then.
Is this for A, it's the statute that's quoted in A?
Yep.
Okay.
Disposal of abandoned property.
For the most part, we're talking about C's property, are we not?
Oh, yeah, abandoned property.
Abandoned property which has been
Oh, like a
abandoned.
car on the side of the
or
road.
remained unclaimed.
Bicycle.
We've got a bicycle downstairs right now that somebody rigged an engine to that nobody will claim. Actually, the person who told us about it and had us come pick it up wants it. So.
Yeah, is there, is it a statute of crimes? So yeah, this is,
Is it-
any abandoned or unclaimed property that has been taken, after the taking of possession of the property by an officer. So this is any property that nobody claims within 30 days.
What's the statute again?
Oh, 66.013.
Okay, thank you. So do I need to change any language in here? I'm thinking that under C, we want a way to actually get rid of it.
Yes.
Because C is just saying that if we can't do all these other things with it, that we will use it, we could maybe use it, but what if it's not usable? Any unusable item will be disposed of properly?
Any
Unusable item?
any property not disposed of by the means listed above maybe
That would be A through C.
disposed of again, yeah. Any property not falling under the previous subsection.
God. Can I just say, we're gonna throw it away?
Yeah.
That would be a lot clearer.
All other property may be disposed of at the sheriff's discretion.
So any property not disposed of by means of A through C will then be disposed of by the sheriff as they deem fit?
Yeah.
I'll just say by RCSO.
The other thing under C two, I think it says any such property would have to be sold at a reasonable price. It's determined by the sheriff, then can be used by the sheriff's department. Or
So that's saying you have to try to sell it first.
sell first, but if there's something
What if
that,
you don't want to sell it?
yeah, but there's something that's really, that could be useful for us.
Well, it says that's what C covers though.
Let me put this rusty hammer up for auction.
But it says any such property which cannot be sold at a reasonable price, so it has to be listed for a reasonable price before the sheriff can be like, well, we could use that. but
It's
we
true,
can't
it's a little
because it's
confusing.
listed.
Or which is deemed by the sheriff be useful in the performance of the sheriff's official duties may be retained.
Well, if this is all in statute, why are we saying it again?
I don't know. I
Do
mean,
we even have to have this in here? Can we just delete the whole
I
thing if
think
it's all in
C we can
statute?
we can dispose of it by any means determined to be in the best interest of the political subdivision.
So, yeah, it doesn't need to be in there at all.
So we can delete it. So no one could say that you seized that because you want to use it for your department. Is that what we're trying to protect ourselves from?
People can say it.
But
But there's, for us to legally seize things, there are channels for that.
you have to meet the criteria,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we just delete this whole paragraph, but am I wrong?
No,
Buddy?
because I mean,
The statute, like you said, the statute reads how it already reads, so. I don't know.
Yeah, we're just reiterating what it already says we can do by statute.
Yeah.
So why would we put it in here? Obviously, there was some kind of question.
and then
Somebody used something that they took from someone and it pissed somebody off.
that's why we got the civil forfeit.
Yeah, okay, and then the effective. Yay.
Before we ever that inappropriately ended up in
Well-
someone else's hands that was seized.
I mean, that's where you probably get
And that's where this,
torqued
yeah.
off people. But we can refer to statute and be covered.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would hope a four-wheeler would be something that would have went for public auction.
well, you would hope.
You would hope, yeah.
well, but what if your department
You
needed
could
it?
use it for
Yeah,
it.
what if you needed it?
Smart patrolling.
I'm sure there's times when you wished you had one.
Fuzzy little stand behind excavator that, it was actually my case, we found it was stolen property, we went, and picked it up, called the insurance company.
It sat in our lot.
Sat for out there for like 3 months, I called the insurance company again, sat for another 3 months. Like, oh man, we could really use that to do stuff around the impound lot, moving stuff around and then, the third time we called the insurance company, they finally came and picked it up.
Due diligence, way to go to your due diligence.
I know, what were we thinking?
All right, so what I was thinking is that I will take everything we talked about today and make all the changes. I was thinking that I would actually combine it all and delete and make a nice document that doesn't have all the cross throughs and all that stuff in it, and you could just refer to this version of that you have.
I would like that. I would prefer that.
So that way you can see that we did make changes. Should I send it? Do we want to talk about it? Everyone read it one more time, talk about it one more time, just to make sure we don't have more changes and then send it to you? Or do you want to see it now and then, because you might have comments too for something we might have missed. I think we covered the whole thing today. What you're saying.
Yeah, and what you weren't talking about directly, I still read through. I mean, I was really only called here for
The one thing, I know. But
But
it's
you've been
nice of
helpful
you
with
to-
paragraph.
been very helpful in numerous things, yeah. All right, so I think I will do that. So I will go through and create a nice clean document. I'll also leave you with this one that's all deleted and added to and stuff like that. And then we'll talk about it one more time and then we'll send it through to you to make sure before it goes to county board that there aren't any, we don't catch any things.
Cool.
Makes sense.
All right. Okay. Okay, and I will be gone for the March meeting. Can you show the March meeting? Unless we change the date. If we changed it to the second
last
Friday. No, no, April. I have to be there for April. Because the next board won't be seated until,
March 1st.
yeah, I will be gone.
I will make sure, I will either be here or on Zoom.
Okay. So I'm assuming that the last item on the agenda is to adjourn.
Awesome.
All right, oh, I should take notes. I did take.
I was doing
You
it.
were, oh, didn't think of it until. All right, so motion by Frank, second by McKee. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you make a note? Yeah. Did you make a note that Dave left, but that Carrie arrived, so we still had.
I did put that Carrie arrived, I didn't make a note with
Okay,
the third class.
just say that. I mean, it was like 5 minutes to 3. It's 5 minutes to 3, because he said he had a 3 o'clock meeting. But just to make sure through the record that we had quorum. All right, thank you, guys. Oh, it feels good to have that. Now if I can just.
That is only 15-year projects.
I didn't say it 15 years ago.
I know, we did. I remember working on that years ago.
Yeah, we did start talking about it when I first started as chair though, and that was 4 years ago. I mean, you and I talked about
Yeah.
that it needed to be done, but
Yes.
then we determined that we couldn't do anything until we figured out what it said,
Yeah.
because it was in all these weird places.
I remember, I think I sat down one day and it took me an hour to go through all the revisions to figure out what my actual staffing numbers should be.
We did that several times.
Yeah.
To try to figure out, are we sure we got the right number?
Yep, yeah.
That would be another one of those things that should maybe be its own ordinance, so it's easier to.
Or policy. Maybe it's just a policy and not an ordinance.
Well, the board has the power to dictate the number of deputies, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
it does have to be something. for action.
Yep. But we kind of do that when we vote on the
Budget.
the Excel spreadsheet that has the number of positions
Oh,
within the
counts.
county. I do think it's nice to have it.
Right.
Yeah.
You can let this down or they take.
Oh, yeah, let's turn it off. It's still recording. Is that recording?